The Man Who Knew My Name. This disturbing true story happened to me in early 2025 while I was walking home from work late at night. I worked at a restaurant that closed around midnight, and my apartment was about a 15-minute walk away. The streets were usually quiet at that time, with only the occasional car passing by. That night felt normal at first. The air was cold and the streetlights cast long shadows across the sidewalk. I remember checking my phone and noticing the time was 12:41 a.m. About halfway home, I noticed someone standing near a bus stop ahead of me. At first, I didn't think much of it, but as I got closer, something about the man felt wrong. He was standing completely still, facing away from the street, not checking his phone, not looking around, just standing there. When I walked past him, he suddenly spoke, very quietly. "Good evening, Daniel." My heart skipped a beat, because I had never seen this man before. I turned around slowly. "How do you know my name?" I asked. The man didn't answer right away. Instead, he slowly turned his head toward me. His face looked pale under the streetlight. Then he smiled. "I know lots of things about you," he said. Before I could respond, he added something that made my stomach drop. "You shouldn't sleep with your window open." I felt a sudden wave of panic, because earlier that night, I had left my bedroom window open. Without thinking, I turned and walked away quickly. When I looked back over my shoulder a few seconds later, the man was gone. The bus stop was completely empty. Even today, I still wonder how he knew my name, and how he knew about my window up.
The camera that recorded something in the dark. This disturbing true story happened to me in May 2025, shortly after I moved into a small studio apartment in a quiet neighborhood. The building itself was old, probably built sometime in the early 1980s. The hallways had dim lighting and the floors creaked when people walked through them. But the rent was cheap, and since I had just started a new job, it seemed like the perfect place to live. For the first week, everything felt completely normal. I unpacked my things, arranged my furniture, and settled into a routine. Most nights I would watch videos or scroll through my phone before eventually falling asleep. Then something strange started happening. One night, around 3 a.m., my phone suddenly lit up on the nightstand next to my bed. At first, the bright light woke me up, and I glanced over at the screen. To my confusion, the camera app was open. I assumed I must have accidentally opened it earlier and forgot to close it. Half asleep, I locked the phone and went back to sleep without thinking much about it. But the next night, the same thing happened. Again, the light from my phone woke me up, and again, the camera app was open. This time, I noticed something else. The time on the screen read 3:12 a.m. I felt slightly uneasy, but I still convinced myself it was just some strange phone glitch. Then it happened again the following night. 3:12 a.m., camera open. At this point, I started to feel uncomfortable. It was too specific to be a coincidence. So, one night, I decided to test something. Before going to sleep, I opened the camera app and set my phone on the nightstand facing the room. Then I started recording. My plan was simple. If something strange was actually happening, the camera would capture it. For the next few hours, nothing happened. The video simply showed my dark bedroom while I slept. Then suddenly, the screen brightened. The timestamp on the recording read 3:12 a.m. As I watched the footage the next morning, everything seemed normal at first. Just the dim outline of my room, my bed, the doorway. Then something appeared. A shadow slowly formed on the wall near the door. At first it looked like normal darkness shifting, but then the shape became clearer. It looked like the outline of a person standing in the doorway. My heart started racing as I watched the footage, because in the recording, I was still lying in bed, completely motionless, which meant the shadow wasn't mine. The shadow slowly moved. It crept along the wall as if someone had taken a step forward, closer to my bed. Then suddenly the video stopped. No glitch message, no explanation, just silence. The next morning, still shaken, I checked the hallway security camera outside my apartment door. According to the footage, no one had entered. No one had left. And my apartment door never opened that entire night.
The phone call from my own number. This happened to me at exactly 2:55 a.m., and the number calling me was my own. It started on a quiet night, the kind of night where everything feels too still. I remember checking the time before I fell asleep. 2:30 a.m. Nothing unusual, but at exactly 2:55 a.m. my phone started ringing. The sound cut through the silence like a knife. Half asleep, I reached over and answered it without even checking the screen. I held the phone to my ear. Hello? For a few seconds, nothing. Just silence. But not the normal kind of silence, the kind that feels occupied. Then I heard it. Breathing. Slow, heavy, uneven breathing. Like someone was standing still, trying not to be heard. My chest tightened. Hello? Who is this? No response, just that same breathing. Inhale, exhale, closer than it should have been. After about 10 seconds, the call ended, just like that. I stared at my phone for a moment, more annoyed than scared. Probably a prank call, I told myself, or a glitch, something stupid. I went back to sleep, but the next night it happened again. Same time, 2:55 a.m. This time, I didn't answer right away. I just watched the phone ring in the dark, the screen glowing faintly against the ceiling. Something about it felt wrong, but eventually I answered. Hello? Silence. Then the breathing came back. Exactly the same. Slow, heavy, unnatural. Like it was right next to me. I didn't speak this time, I just listened, frozen, waiting. But again, after a few seconds, the call ended. Now I couldn't ignore it anymore. Something wasn't right. By the third night, I was already awake, waiting, watching the clock. 2:54 a.m., 2:55. My phone rang instantly, no delay, no hesitation, like it was waiting for that exact moment. This time, my hand hesitated, but I picked it up anyway. Hello? Silence. Then the breathing started again, but this time it was different, closer, clearer, and then it stopped, completely. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything before it. And then I heard it, a whisper, so low I almost didn't catch it. You forgot to lock the door. My entire body went cold. I sat up immediately, my heart slamming against my chest. I turned toward the front door. It looked normal. Still, quiet, but that sentence kept repeating in my head. You forgot to lock the door. I forced myself out of bed and slowly walked toward it. Every step felt heavier than the last. The air in my apartment felt wrong, thick, like I wasn't alone anymore. For a second, I thought I heard something behind me, but when I turned around, there was nothing. I reached the door, my hand shaking as I grabbed the handle. I checked it, locked. Completely locked. I even pulled it twice just to be sure. Nothing, no one there, no sound outside. Everything looked normal, but it didn't feel normal. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I just sat there, waiting, listening. Morning eventually came, and with it, a small sense of relief. Maybe it really was just a prank, or some kind of glitch, something explainable, something human. But then I checked my phone, my call history, and that's when I saw it. The number that had been calling me every night at exactly 2:55 a.m. was listed right there. Clear as day. No unknown caller, no blocked ID, just one number. My number. My exact phone number calling me from inside my own house. The summer of 2025 was supposed to be simple. I had just started documenting wildlife activity in a dense forest a few miles outside town. It wasn't a famous location, no hiking trails, no campsites, just miles of trees, uneven ground, and silence that felt heavier the deeper you went. That's exactly why I chose it. I set up 4 motion-activated cameras across different clearings. Each one was positioned carefully, angled toward animal trails, water sources, and open patches where deer usually passed at night. For the first 2 weeks, everything was normal. The footage was exactly what I expected. Deer moving cautiously through the trees, foxes darting in and out of frame. Even a black bear showed up once, sniffing the camera before wandering off. Nothing felt out of place. Until the 3rd week. That's when I noticed something off. It started small. One of the cameras triggered at around 3 a.m., but the clip only lasted a few seconds. No animal, no movement, just an empty clearing with trees swaying slightly in the wind. I assumed it was a glitch, but then it happened again and again. Every night, around the same time, between 3 and 3:10 a.m., the same camera would activate, and every time, nothing was there. At least that's what I thought, until the night everything changed. The timestamp read 3:03 a.m. The motion sensor triggered like usual, but this time, there was someone standing in the clearing. At first I thought it was just a trick of the light. The footage was grainy. The infrared made everything look distorted, but as I leaned closer to the screen, I realized it wasn't a shadow. It was a person, standing perfectly still. They were wearing dark clothing, completely blending into the surroundings. If the camera hadn't switched to night mode, I probably wouldn't have seen them at all. What disturbed me wasn't just the fact that someone was out there. It was the way they were standing, completely motionless. Their arms hung loosely by their sides, their posture unnatural, and their face was pointed directly at the camera. It felt intentional, like they knew exactly where it was. I kept watching the footage. 10 seconds passed, then 30, a full minute. They didn't move, not even slightly. No shifting weight, no head movement, nothing. It didn't feel human. Even the animals I recorded before showed some kind of movement, breathing, blinking, reacting to sounds. But this person was completely still, at around the 1 minute and 40-second mark. Something changed, slowly, very slowly. The figure began to move, not their body, just their head. It turned slightly to the side, then back, almost like they were stretching their neck. And then they smiled. I paused the footage immediately. Something about it didn't feel right. The smile looked wrong, too wide, too slow, like it didn't belong on a human face. I replayed that moment over and over again. Each time, it felt worse. Like the longer I looked at it, the more real it became. That's when I decided to go frame by frame. I needed to understand how they got there. No footsteps, no entry point, nothing. So I rewound the clip to the very beginning. Frame 1, the clearing. Frame 2, the same. Frame 3. I froze. My chest tightened instantly. The figure was already there. They hadn't walked into frame. They hadn't appeared suddenly. They were already standing in the clearing before the camera even activated, meaning the motion sensor didn't detect them entering. It detected something else. I felt a cold chill run through me because that only meant one thing. They had been standing there, completely still, in total darkness, for long enough that the camera didn't register them as movement. I checked the previous clips from that same night. 2:58 a.m., nothing. 3:01 a.m., still nothing. 3:02 a.m. I slowed it down, and for just one frame, you could barely make it out, a faint outline, right where the figure would later be standing. They were already there, before the camera even turned on. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the distance between me and that forest, how far it really was, and more importantly, how long someone would have to stand in one place, in complete darkness, without moving, just to appear like that on camera. The next morning, I went back. I told myself I needed to check the equipment, but deep down, I just needed to know if it was real. When I reached the clearing, everything looked normal. Too normal. No footprints, no broken branches, nothing to suggest anyone had been there. But then I saw it, right where the figure had been standing. The ground looked disturbed, not like someone had walked through it, more like they had been standing there for a long time. And then I noticed something else. One of the cameras had been turned just slightly, barely noticeable, but enough to change the angle. I know I didn't touch it. I packed everything up that same day. All the cameras, all the equipment, I didn't go back. But a few nights later, I checked the last clip one more time, just to be sure. And that's when I saw something I hadn't noticed before. At the very end of the video, right before the recording cuts off, the figure leans forward slightly, closer to the camera, and whispers something. There was no audio, but their lips moved, and somehow I knew exactly what they said. I know you're watching. The recording in the hotel room. It happened during a business trip in late 2025, and even now, I still can't explain it. I had booked a hotel in a busy part of the city, nothing fancy, just somewhere quiet to sleep for a few nights. The building was tall, at least 10 floors. My room was on the 8th. When I first walked in, everything felt normal, too normal. A neatly made bed, a small desk facing the wall, a chair tucked perfectly into the corner, and thick curtains that barely let the city lights through. I remember standing there for a second longer than usual, just taking it all in. There was this strange feeling, like the room had already been occupied, but I brushed it off. I always do. That night, I stayed up later than I should have, answering emails, watching random videos, trying to ignore the silence. By 2:30 a.m., I finally turned off the lights and lay down. The room went completely dark. Not the comfortable kind of dark, the kind that feels like it's watching you back. I don't remember falling asleep, but I remember waking up. Suddenly, it was exactly 3:07 a.m. My phone was glowing beside me, and something was playing. At first, I thought it was just a notification, or maybe a video I forgot to close, but then I heard it breathing. Slow, steady, too close to the microphone. My heart started pounding as I reached for my phone. The screen was already unlocked, and what I saw made my entire body go cold. It was a video recorded just hours earlier from my phone. The footage showed my hotel room, my bed, my desk, the chair in the corner. Everything exactly as it was, except the angle. The camera wasn't where I left my phone, it was near the doorway, pointing directly at me, sleeping. I froze completely, unable to even breathe as I watched myself lying there, motionless, unaware. The video continued. At first, nothing moved, just the faint sound of breathing behind the camera. Then, the camera shifted, slowly. It panned across the room, like someone carefully looking around, studying everything, memorizing it, the chair, the desk, the walls. And then, it stopped. Facing my bed, my chest tightened as I watched the footage, because I knew what was about to happen before it even did. The camera moved closer, not a jump, not a cut, but a slow, deliberate step forward. Then another and another, each movement subtle but undeniable. Whoever was holding that phone was walking toward me. I could hear it now, clearer than before. Breathing right behind the camera. I dropped the phone. The room was still dark, too dark. In a panic, I reached over and slammed the light switch on. The room flooded with light. I jumped out of bed immediately. Heart racing, scanning every inch of the room. Nothing. The chair was still in the corner. The desk untouched. The bathroom door slightly open, just how I left it. I checked inside. Nothing. I threw open the closet. Empty. I rushed to the door, still locked from the inside. That's when a realization hit me. something far worse than anything I had imagined. I slowly turned back toward the room. If no one came in and no one left, then whoever recorded that video, Jim Witt, was already here before I even went to sleep. I didn't stay another second. I grabbed my things and left the room immediately, not even bothering to pack properly. Downstairs, I told the front desk everything. At first, they didn't believe me. But when I showed them the video, everything changed. Security was called, footage was reviewed. We waited, minutes passed, then more. Finally, they found something, or rather, they didn't. No one had entered my room, no staff, no guest, no one. The hallway camera showed nothing. The door never opened, which means there was only one explanation. Someone had been inside that room the entire time, waiting, watching, and recording me while I slept. Even now, I still check every room I enter, every closet, every corner, every shadow, because sometimes you don't hear them come in. Sometimes they're already there.